Greetings. I am Michelle Walker. I work as a part-time missioner for the Bishop of Northern Indiana, Douglas Sparks, in the capacity of administration and communication. And I am honored to host this Zoom session on behalf of both the Diocese of Northern Indiana and all of Province 5. A few months ago, I was approached by Beth Hall, who introduced me to a program and a ministry that I had never heard of, called Christmas at Sea, sponsored by the Seamen's Institute, which is a program that's based on creating beautiful knit, crochet, sewed hand products that are given to mariners who are often at sea during Christmas time. So I'm just the convener and the facilitator of the technology and the information sharing person. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome Beth Hall from our very own St. John Evangelist. And she will explain a little bit more and then introduce our very special guest speaker, Joanne. Beth, it's all yours.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to our presentation this afternoon. I'm Beth Hall. I'm from here in Elkhart. I'm a vestry member, full disclosure, but I first became aware of Christmas at Sea around 2008, 2009, and through the church here in Elkhart. And I was kind of doing some research. I was on Ravelry, if you guys know Ravelry. And they kept talking about the knit and crochet patterns, and I was looking for a crocheted hat. And finally, I just couldn't find it, so I reached out to the then program director, who was Paige, and said, I can't find any crocheted hats. And she said, yeah, we don't have any crocheted hats. You want to do one? And I thought, well, that's interesting. Sure. I'd never designed anything, let alone written a pattern down for anybody. But a week later, I sent her a pattern and a prototype. And in 2009, Seafarer's Watch Cap became the one and only crocheted hat for Christmas at Sea. Ever since then, I've dabbled back and forth with hats and scarves and things. But when the pandemic broke, I was going nuts and realized crochet was my way out of this whole thing. And so I started crocheting, and I knew I would overwhelm St. John's Prayer Shawl Ministry if I kept up with that. So I thought, let's crochet for Christmas at Sea, which brought up a couple more questions. I reached out again, and this time I had a new person. It was Joanne. And she called me back, and we've talked and emailed a lot in that last 18 months. And she'll kind of explain all of that. But without further ado, I am delighted to introduce Joanne Bertosik from Christmas at Sea.
Beth, thank you. Thank you so much for this invitation to share some time with you this morning. I am speaking to you from the International Seafarer Center in the bustling port of Newark. And I'm going to move my cart a little bit. I am sitting in front of a gigantic wall with lots of cubbies. That's not a fake background. Those are knits and crocheted items back there. And I'm in the Christmas at Sea room. Before I even begin, I just want to give a shout out to Beth for this wonderful invitation. I've really gotten to know Beth over the course of these last 18 months from a project that we've been working on, but more on that later. I thought I would give you a little bit of a bio on who I am and why I'm speaking. How did I get where I am? My entire professional career, I've always worked in government and social services. I started out my career as a parkie with the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation, and somehow eventually found myself as the coordinator of volunteers for a federally funded program called the Senior Medicare Patrol, where I worked in healthcare fraud, waste, and abuse. To completely change channels, more recently, I've been a fundraiser for the Church of St. Luke in the Fields, which is a wonderful little Episcopal parish in Greenwich Village. And then one day I got a phone call from a friend of mine that worked at Episcopal Charities. And he said, the Seamen's Church Institute has this job opening and it's got your name on it. And the rest is history. I've been here about 3.5 years, and I think it's fair to say that this is my all-time favorite. I couldn't work for a more delightful nonprofit organization. Um, um, what I thought that I would do is, clearly I want to focus on Christmas at Sea. That's my favorite thing to talk about. But in order to understand where this fits in, I thought that where I'd start is in a broad brushstroke of the Seamen's Church Institute, who we are, what we do, why we should care, and then zero in at Christmas at Sea. So I am going to hopefully share my screen, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Seamen's Church Institute. Oh, I sure hope that everybody can see these. Okay, are we good? Can you see that first slide, or are you still looking at me?
We're good, Joanne.
Okay, great. All right, so Seamen's Church Institute. Here we are, and that is our logo. In 1834, New York City was a bustling port that was receiving cargo ships from around the world that powered our economy. Seafarers are vital to this trade, of course. Many of the seafarers at this time were first-generation Americans, recent immigrants, or foreign nationals. And unfortunately, they were ignored by land dwellers, and more unfortunately, taken advantage of by boarding house owners that saw seafarers as easy prey. The Seamen's Church Institute recognized this as an opportunity to embrace this as a mission and began offering pastoral care and providing advancement through continuing education courses. And you can see throughout the course of our history, we've had a few name changes. Our mission. Our mission is basically a three-pronged stool in these particular areas. Our overall mission is to make the maritime environment safe for all seafarers and mariners. We have met the ever-changing needs of this population by working on improving existing models and embracing new technologies. Some of the things that are underknown about Seamen's Church is we've been involved in building seafarer centers, medical and dental clinics, telemedicine via radio, which was really important, advanced simulation training. We have lawyers focused on protecting seafarer rights. We have worked with mental health institutions to do occupational health studies. And of course, we have this core of wonderful full-time chaplains, all combined and mixed in this great big pot, helps us to fulfill our mission. And I'm going to zero in a little bit on pastoral care, continuing maritime education, and our seafarers' rights. It all began, looking at that photograph on the top left is the floating barge where it all began. Originally, SCI was in Lower Manhattan. We're still headquartered there today. Actually, our administrative offices are located at 50 Broadway, about a half a block from the Bull. I love these pictures of New York. This gives you old time New York. This gives you an idea of what it must have looked like when the seafarers started arriving in the port of New York. As the seafarers spent more time on the mainland, our programs involved food service and accommodations, post office, banking, continuing education, and even a library. And I love that photograph on the left, the middle, where you can see this gentleman at a wheel. This is actually on the roof of the building where they held training classes. As I mentioned before, pastoral care is really at the heart and soul of what we do. Here in Port Newark, which is the third largest container port in the United States, we have 3 full-time chaplains. We have, here I see a picture of Cora, Chaplain Cora. We have Father James giving ashes on Ash Wednesday, and a little itty bitty picture of Michelle standing by our passenger van. Our chaplains will tell you that no 2 days are alike. We meet seafarers where we are. Whatever they might need, we will try to accommodate their requests. We have arranged family reunions at the International Seafarers Center, and we've even taken an engineer off a ship and found a local Pearl Vision where he was able to get an eye test and a brand new pair of eyeglasses before boarding his vessel, which as an engineer you would think is rather important. We do provide transportation to the New Jersey Garden Mall. Seafarers love going home with souvenirs. And due to COVID, we have come up with a couple of new innovations. Right now, we are transporting groups of seafarers in one of our passenger vans that wasn't destroyed by Hurricane Ida to a local pharmacy in a supermarket a couple of miles from here for the J&J one and done vaccine. We're to take them here for the J&J because we don't know where they're going to be for their second shot. So that's why we are taking them to get the J&J, because who knows where they're going to be in 2 or 3 weeks, or whether they'll be in a position to get a follow-up vaccination. Also, during the initial lockdown, many of the seafarers on board their vessels were unable to get home because of transportation issues. And what happened to the seafarers that originally thought they were going to be out in sea for 9 months ended up having their contracts renewed, and they ended up staying on board their vessels for 12 months and even longer. But what a lot of people didn't consider were the crew members sitting at home waiting to rejoin their crews and the financial hardships that they incurred, not having a salary. So we worked with many of these seafarers to help them apply for a grant to obtain a stipend to cover rent, food, and utilities while they were waiting to be rejoined with their crews. The other innovation that we've come up with in Port Newark since COVID is what we call Shop and See. Many of the seafarers are having problems getting the supplies and equipment that they need. So about 2 weeks out from coming to the port, they can contact us as a personal shopper. We will go on Amazon, we will buy whatever supplies they need. And by the time they are here in Port Newark, we will actually take their Amazon deliveries and take it to their ships. Now, this is all affectionately under the umbrella of what we call the blue water guys, because the sea is blue and our seafarers are the blue water guys. But we also take care of our inland mariners working the rivers, or what we would call our brown water population. Since the 1990s, we have created what we call Ministry on the River, where we serve America's towboat mariners on their best days and their most tragic days. Ministry on the River offers pastoral counseling, support, and fellowship to thousands of professional mariners that work aboard towboats, harbor tugs, and dredges on the Mississippi and the intercoastal along the Gulf. We are the only pastoral care network on America's inland waterways, and we operate 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Sorry about that. In addition to our pastoral care, we are very concerned with maritime education. We want to keep our waters safe. In our offices in Paducah and Houston, we have our Center for Maritime Education. And I will dive right in and tell you that I have had the opportunity to visit both facilities in Paducah and Houston. And these computer simulation training rooms are absolutely amazing. I don't understand how it works, but when you're actually in these classrooms, you feel as if you are on the water. You can almost feel the water lapping on the side of a tugboat. If you get motion sickness, you might need Dramamine. If you're affected by weather, they create storms and sunny days and rain and wind. So mariners have an opportunity to practice navigating, pulling these huge barges, which are the length of a football field, that go under bridges, that navigate through locks and dams. And they do it in the safety of a classroom before they get on the open waters. It is absolutely amazing. and very high tech. And I will never make the mistake again of calling it a video game, because the instructors were very, very unhappy with me. They're not video games. Our Center for Mariner Advocacy, once upon a time, was called Seafarers' Rights. Today, it is located in New Orleans. We have an awful lot of acronyms. Our Center for Mariner Advocacy is recognized worldwide as a leading advocate for seafarers' rights. The center provides free legal services and assistance to seafarers. In fact, we are the world's only free legal aid service devoted exclusively to the needs of merchant mariners. We assist seafarers with concerning working conditions, compensations, and rights in various circumstances. We've also expanded the center to include wellness. I wish I could tell you that suicide and mental health wasn't a concern, but the mariners and seafarers are away from their families for long periods of time. They have this atypical lifestyle. It is extremely stressful, and suicide is an issue. We have what we call our ASSIST program. We actually have a training program that helps to identify seafarers or mariners that might be experiencing suicidal ideology. And what we do is we work with these individuals to create a safety plan so they'll do no harm. So that is something that is a major focus for us. And here we are, Christmas at Sea, going strong since 1898. Christmas at Sea is the Seamen's Church Institute's 123-year-old tradition of gifting handmade garments to seafarers and mariners at Christmas time as an expression of gratitude for all they do to make our modern way of life possible. 90% of everything we touch and feel come to us via water. Today, for this program, I have over 1,000 individual volunteers and another 150 groups representing all 50 states and beyond. We have an international volunteer body as well. We have somebody in the UK, we have knitters and crocheters in Luxembourg, Italy, the Caribbean, the Philippines, and Canada, and that number grows every single year. It's an enormous program. It's 100% volunteer driven. In Port Newark last year, we gave out close to 10,000 pieces of knits and crochets, and we sent another 8,700 pieces west for our inland mariners. A little bit about these designs. Our patterns are designed with mariner safety in mind. Our hats fit under hard hats. The cowls and the scarves fit snugly under the safety vest. We don't want anything loose or hanging that can get caught in heavy equipment, which is why we've come up with these patterns. There are about 20 of them that exist today. Now, you do not, with that said, you do not have to use our pattern, but should you choose to use a different pattern, we would ask that you capture the essence of our patterns in terms of dimension, length, and width as well. For those folks that do not crochet or do not knit, there are other opportunities and ways to become involved in our program. In Port Newark, we pack the gifts in what we call ditty bags, which are drawstring bags that we have volunteers that actually sew this for us. And the sewing pattern also exists in our handbook and on our website. And we never have enough of these ditty bags. For the 3 years that I've been here, we run about 30% short, and at the end of the season, I end up having to purchase gift bags. And mariners tell us that it's not the same. They're disappointed when they get a plastic gift bag versus one of ours handmade ditty bags. For those people that do not knit, crochet, or sew, also included in these gift bags are travel-sized toiletries, non-perishable snacks, and personalized Christmas cards. We work with a lot of church groups across the United States and their Sunday school classes where we have children actually make the Christmas cards for us. We are a favored place in the port for leftover Halloween candy. And the toiletries have been a little more challenging because people are not traveling like they used to because of COVID. So all those sample size shampoo and body wash and conditioners that you get in the hotels, we're not seeing those as much as we have. And I also am being told that now when you travel, many hotels aren't offering those travel size shampoos and conditioners. They're putting big pump things in their showers and bathrooms today. But we do include those as well. As I became more familiar with the program and really took a deep dive into the patterns, I realized that they were probably not as clear as they could be. And also very early on, I felt that we were not keeping pace with the increasing number of crocheters. We had far more knit patterns than crochets. So I set out on this 18-month project to create a new Christmas at Sea Handbook where we would take a deep dive into these patterns and revisit them. And for the last year, I've been working with a very dedicated group of international women. And the result is this very incredible Christmas at Sea Handbook. Right now, we have a digital version that lives on our pattern and publication page. It is my goal for 2022 to drop some money in the budget that we can actually print a large number of hard copies that we'll have available for people that don't necessarily have access to email. In addition to this wonderful new resource, we also launched this year a new Facebook page called Untangled. It is a members only Facebook page. You have to ask to join. But what is really incredible about this is it is a place to go and if you have any questions about our patterns, our fibers, anything, where to send donations, you can post your questions on Untangled, and within moments you will have experts responding to your questions. It's a lot of fun. It builds camaraderie. It's a place to gain encouragement. And I have to tell you, I am floored that we started this the last week in April, and as of this morning, we have over 300 members. So it is a robust conversation, and I invite everybody to check it out. The pictures that you are looking at show Father James with a red Santa sack going on board a vessel delivering Christmas gifts. We have Kempton, who is our senior chaplain out in Paducah, taking a box of knits to a shipping company that will make sure mariners working on Christmas days receive that. You have a picture, a bigger scope picture of what my room looks like. And then you have mariners modeling a seafarer cap. Here's the crocheted seafarer's cap. Here's a cap with a scarf in many colors. And we have a wonderful picture of a crew that received their ditty bags on Christmas Day way out in the ocean, and they sent us a picture. And there is just so much about this program that is amazing, but I am sure that I did not cover everything that needs to be covered. And I want to make sure that you have a chance to answer your questions, and I can elaborate on any points that would be of unique interest. So what I'd like to really do is to open this up for conversations and questions to make this more fun and more engaging for you. So please, this is not school. You do not have to raise your hand. Unmute yourself, ask me questions, keep them flying, and I'll do my best to answer everything I can. I could not have been that thorough.
Joanne, could you maybe stop screen share so we can see
Yes.
better? And then as you're doing that, a couple of us were looking for the Facebook page Untangled. There's a few of them out there. Can you help us narrow that down?
SCI Untangled?
Is that the name of it? SCI?
Maybe.
Untangle.
How about I'm going on Facebook as we look now, and I will get
Oh,
that for you.
it seems to showed up. You said 308 as of this morning.
Yes. Yep. There we are.
I will post the link here for
That is great. Now, I will explain. I had hesitation making this member only because, of course, I was not looking to add any stumbling blocks or hurdles for people to join. But I want to make this a safe environment where people feel comfortable sharing photographs, putting some personal information. So if you ask to join, please let me know that please answer the questions and let me know how you heard of us, because if I can't figure out who you are, if you don't have a full Facebook page, I will message you privately and ask how you've heard. I'm being very careful protecting everybody's privacy on this site. And again, I just want to make this fun and safe. So I am being a little guarded with membership here.
Thank you.
So forgive me. Forgive me if I'm not being openly friendly, but once you're in, you're in.
Wonderful.
If you would like to see, can I go ahead and share the pattern page then?
Please. Oh, and I want to share with you that we did there are 20 patterns. We did review every single pattern. The ones that are in our digital handbook are the up-to-date ones. A couple of weeks ago, our communications director left to accept a brand new position at which we're thrilled for her. It's a terrific opportunity, but she left before all of the patterns have been updated. Our new communications manager starts on the 20th, and his first project is to update all the patterns. So the ones in the handbook are up to date. Some of them on the website are. I know that there are a few that are not, but all the patterns do exist. And again, if you're going through here and you have any issues, concerns, any problems, you can always email me and I'll be happy to direct you to the right place to get your questions answered. And yes, Beth, please, if you could show the pattern and publication page.
Okay. Okay, can everybody see that? Yes? Okay. So this is it, and it's called, I'll put the link in chat, but patterns and publications. And as Joanne was saying, there's safety issues here, but this talks about colors and yarns and that sort of thing. You can use pretty much what you want. They ask you to tag it if it isn't a simple acrylic. The one thing that's fun is you're noticing that there's a lot of different colors. They also ask you if you want to add a card to it, and you can actually download that. Here's the handbook, and here's some very lovely crochet by...
Can I give a shout out to Beth there? Those are her designs. Those were originally knit patterns that Beth was able to translate into crochet for us. And they're Beth, I can tell you that we get a lot of requests for those patterns.
Thank you, thank you. Here's the new handbook, and you can download it to PDF. Later, as she said, we will be printing them, and so you can have them. But here are the different patterns, and they're listed as crochet, or if they don't say crochet, they're probably knit, and you can download them. Some are in a little... You click on them and then you have to download them, and then others are simply a PDF. There's a little bit of everything here. So, but this is where you'll find it, and you'll find all the different information there. So I am going to try to figure out to stop share. I'm stop sharing. There you go. So, and I will put that link in the chat.
And it occurred to me, Beth, I'm glad you pulled that page up. 3 things occurred to me. One is I get a lot of questions about colors. I think once upon a time, maybe my predecessors focused on traditional male color palettes, navy blue, dark hues. Today, everything goes. The safety gear is neon. Mariners and seafarers love bright colors. Do not shy away from non-traditional color palettes. The other thing I understand, once upon a time, there were restrictions as to type of fiber. I think that, we are asking a lot of our volunteers. We're asking for your time and your talent and your fiber and your and mailing them to us. So I feel that any fiber that you have that you enjoy working with, will it be acrylic or wool blend, go for it. Um, we all kinds of fibers are accepted. The gift tags. We do ask that you gift tag your donations, because seafarers love to know where their knits and crochets originated. Even if there's nothing more on the gift tag than your state, they just love geography. Um, if you do fill out a gift tag, I would suggest be careful with personal identifiers. Your first name, the initial of your last name, and your state is more than enough. If you want to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, that's lovely. Now, we do have gift tags. We have prototypes on our website. I can mail you gift tags, or if you prefer, you can create your own gift tags. I know that a lot of church groups that I work with have a church designed tag that they do from their parish. And that is fine, and that is acceptable too. And if something comes to Port Newark and it's not tagged, guess what? We will do it for you. But I can tell you, when it's December 1st and we get a shipment of 500 knits from a local parish and nothing is tagged, that takes a lot of time. We will do it. We will do it happily, but it is a rush at the end of the year. So that's why we ask that you can. And the other thing, I saw the question, I think, from Jennifer. The address is also on our website. Christmas at Sea lives at the International Seafarers Center in Port Newark. Everything comes to Port Newark. I would guess that if you wrote Christmas at Sea, Newark, New Jersey, that would probably get here, because you would not believe, between Christmas at Sea and the Shop at Sea program, it looks like an Amazon warehouse downstairs. The mail is enormous. So the best time, that is a great question. Christmas at Sea, believe it or not, is year round. Every day is Christmas here. When we finish packing for one Christmas season, we go seamlessly into the next. Generally speaking, if we get donations by December 15th, that is generally enough time for us to get it packed and distributed in the same calendar year. After December 15th, it's pretty realistic that it's going to get rolled over to the next year. But we start moving knits for mariners in June. So I have already sent 2,430 knits west for inland mariners. And we also, starting on October 4th, we start packing in earnest. We have the Women's Club of Morristown coming in as our first packing group. And I suspect that this year that is going to be pretty dicey, as the Delta variant is still looming. It will probably, we will have COVID protocols in place, but I can share with you that last year it was very challenging. And by December, most of what we packed was done by staff and family members that were willing to come into the port. But this year, hopefully with the vaccinations and with the masks mandate now, and social distancing, and we sanitize this room after every single group. Hopefully, people will begin to become a little more comfortable coming up here to helping us pack, because clearly it's a huge endeavor. And we start distributing gifts here in Port Newark the Monday before Thanksgiving, and we go to January 6th, Epiphany. Yes, we accept Christmas cards. We accept them two ways. We'll take blank Christmas cards, and we'll even take recycled Christmas cards. If you have a stash of Christmas cards with messages, if you want to just cut the front page off, the front cover off, we will have volunteers here in the port write messages on the back of the cover. If you have Christmas cards and you'd like to write Mariner messages, that would be great. And yes, we do Christmas cards decorated by children. I work with church youth groups. I work with YMCAs. I work with activity directors at senior centers. We love homemade cards. Those are terrific. I've done a lot of ship visits in the last 3 years, and I love it when I go on board a vessel and I see a Christmas card from one of our volunteers that's scotch taped to a cabinet. They hold on to them for years. You know, um, I said that this was my favorite place to work. I'm not kidding. Um, I have worked for all kinds of nonprofit organizations with tremendous missions, but this one really touches deep and forever. My first week here, I got a phone call from a woman whose husband was a former mariner. Years ago, he had received a hat, and it was his favorite hat in the whole world. It was his touchstone. And she decided after all these years she was going to wash it. And she put it in the washing machine.
Mm.
And you can guess what happened. The whole thing fell apart. And she was afraid to tell her husband. So she called me. I'm hysterical. She was afraid to tell her husband she ruined the hat. And was there any way she can get another one? And of course, I sent her one immediately. And she was going to eventually have to tell her husband. He was going to guess that it wasn't the original. But that's how meaningful these gifts are. And in terms of that question of English. English is the international language of the sea. All seafarers have some command of English in varying degrees. So yes, absolutely, they speak English. Um, I would be, I wouldn't go into volumes of English, and I would kind of like scale it down to beginning English. But yes, everybody has a basic knowledge of English.
Joanne, speaking of stories, I was wondering if you'd like to share Nancy, our tech editor's story and her connection, which is kind of in that same vein.
You know, I have been so fortunate. Uh, when I complete disclosure, I am not the most experienced knitter. I knit, but kind of like those people that play music but don't read music. I have no idea how to read a pattern. My mother never taught me how to read a pattern, so I kind of wing it. So I am not the most experienced knitter. So when it came to doing this Christmas at Sea handbook, I needed a knit editor. Um, so I went on Ravelry and I asked for some recommendations, and I came up zero. So I think I went on the Knitting Guild of America and there was a list. So, I mean, how do you pick out a name from a list? So I thought I would do it geographically. So believe it or not, Rochester was the closest city to Port Newark. Not exactly local, but it was on the East Coast. So I reached out to a knit editor in Rochester by the name of Nancy Harrington. Unbeknownst to me, her father was a mariner. Her brother was a mariner. She grew up in California looking out on locks and dams and vessels. And this program was near and dear to her heart, and she couldn't say no. And it was just such an interesting and fabulous and wonderful connection. Um, so she deeply got it, not just in the tech editor, but she understood the population we were serving, who we were serving, why it was important, and it became personal and meaningful. And I'm going to guess that for many of our volunteers, there is a personal story. Some knit and crochet because they've had a family member. Some knit or crochet because they happen to live on the water and they see the vessels go by. Some people have gotten involved from their outreach ministries at their local church. I work with a lot of senior centers, and actually now I'm pretty sure it's like this in Indiana. We have these emerging senior continuum of care where you have independent living and you have assisted living and you have more nursing home situations. And we have a lot of older adults that are retired and find this extremely meaningful. During COVID, I launched what was called Stay Home and Knit, which was knit was a catch-all for all of our crafters. There was no disrespect to crocheters there, but Stay Home and Knit was this campaign that I launched during COVID, and we had an amazing year. We grew the program by 20%. We had such an abundance of knits that we were able to extend the gift giving season into what we call morale boxes way into February. We were so incredibly grateful for all of the volunteers that donated during COVID. But where I'm going with this, I got so many pieces of mail expressing how grateful our volunteers were that they had something meaningful to do while they were at home. They found that by being able to contribute to this program, it gave them something to look forward to when they got up every day, rather than turning on the news and hearing all the distressing details about the COVID epidemic. So, you know, again, we are just extremely grateful, and I am always like blown away by how personal this program is, how volunteers write to us and tell them a little bit about who they are and how they got involved. I get excited when I get phone calls from volunteers telling me that they were at a fabric shop and they got a great deal on some fabric, or there's a sale at one of the knitting shops. Volunteers call me when children graduate from college or when they're going to be a grandparent. It is just, it's one great big happy family. And it wouldn't happen without volunteers. Did I miss a question?
No, I think that was just Michelle summarizing some of the things you said, so it'd also be in the chat.
I talk a lot.
You have a wealth of information to share.
There's so many pieces to this, and most of it's in my head. So at some point I should really write this all down. But I can tell you, I am looking at, there's no such thing as a Christmas season. This is like Santa's workshop. I'm looking at about 30 packages that I was last in the port on Monday. There are now 30 packages sitting here waiting to be opened. And every single gift is acknowledged. At least for the balance of this year, we pride ourselves in doing handwritten thank you notes to everybody. Truthfully, 2022, we might have to rethink this. When I first started, I can actually honestly tell you, I opened up every single gift. Everything that came in, I saw. I personally wrote every single thank you note. As the program grows, as we expand to our inland mariners, that's changing a little bit. The chaplains in Port Newark, after they do their ship visits, will come up to the Christmas at Sea room and help me. And I have a number of local volunteers that do come in a couple of times a week to help open packages and write thank yous. Because I wish I could, but I just can't. So that's a good thing. But you know, I wish I could, you know, personally acknowledge every single gift that comes in.
Well, thank you, Joanne. That is wonderful. I love your enthusiasm. I love seeing all the colorful things behind you. I'm preparing to go and print off my patterns and see which one I want to start with right away, because I'm excited to do that.
Please do the patterns you enjoy working with. Don't worry if it's not a set. Don't worry. I don't know how, but somehow when we get to packing, there is a hat for every scarf, a scarf for every hat, a vest for every slipper. It all seems to work out. So for every person that likes making hats, there's somebody that likes making a scarf. And I can elaborate. If you do send a set, we will not separate them. We keep sets together. We give sets out in Port Newark. We give individual pieces to our inland mariners only because the needs are somewhat different. Seafarers are away from home 9 to 12 months. Inland mariners work a 28-day schedule on, 28-day schedule off. So in order to introduce and expand that program, we started out with one piece. As we receive more donations, we might be able to offer them sets as well. But we do know every 28 days they go home, and we're not sure that those scarves and hats come back after some time. We have been told that husbands have told us that wives and daughters and girlfriends often fall in love with these knits and grab them. So, you know, when we give a gift, and it is to that person to decide where it goes from there. But we do know how appreciated they are. And it really is, it's something else to be able to go out in Christmas and hand out these gifts.
Joanne?
There is room for growth. Absolutely. I don't ever want you to think we have enough, because the more knits we have, the more mariners we will serve.
Joanne, we were talking, or you had been talking, that they were thinking about going into the Great Lakes region. Has anything come of that?
Not yet. That is still very much on the docket, still very much under discussion.
Okay.
Um, right now, we have a number of special events that we launch, and because of COVID, they've become rearranged. So right now, we have 4 special events back to back, running September, October, and December. So much of the focus has been on that, but no, very much. And I will also share, this is a preview, private preview just for you guys. Not only are we talking about expanding into the Great Lakes, we have a chaplain, a retired chaplain, who just relocated to Florida. So we are in conversation now about spreading the wealth to Florida as well. I wouldn't mind taking a trip to Florida in December to personally giving those gifts. So yeah, we are constantly, our staff meetings are all about what do we do, how can we do it better, more innovative, greater reach. We are constantly reinventing ourselves, and that's why I think we've been here since 1834, and I think that's why the Seamen's Church Institute has become the largest seafarers nonprofit social service in North America. Because there are others. I don't want to mislead you. We are the Seamen's Church Institute of New York and New Jersey, with offices in New York and Port Newark, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, New Orleans, Paducah, and Houston. But there are others. There's one in Newport, there's one in Philadelphia, there's one in Baltimore, and many of them have Christmas at Sea programs. Some of them are similar to ours, but it's fair to say that we have the largest program. We serve the largest number with this particular program, probably because we've just been doing it longer.
Thank you.
But we're very cordial. We share our patterns with the other Christmas at Seas.
In Zoom fashion, let's all give Joanne a round of applause. Thank you for sharing this wonderful ministry with us. Just as a point of reference, thank you, Pastor Terry. Just as a point of reference, our primary contact in Northern Indiana and or in Province 5 is going to be Beth Hall. I dropped her email into the chat, but if you're listening, it's just CAS, which is Christmas at Sea, at ednin.org, which is our Northern Indiana diocesan website. Feel free to reach out to her anytime.
Deb, let's see the cowls. We have an offer here. We have 2 new cowls.
Oh, Deb's been busily away.
Yeah.
I was so looking forward to Beth's pattern when it came out in last month, and I ended up making 2, one right after the other. It was so much fun, and I made mine out of scrappy yarn. These at this point, these aren't for donation. One was for me, and one was for a friend, and I'd hesitate using so many yarns to donate because I know they'd get rough use and my ends may pop out, and I wouldn't want that would be embarrassing. If a friend has to put up with that, then that's another thing. But I just made all sorts of different colors on that one, and then another 2. I really like the ribbing and how it looks knit, but it's not.
Oh, Beth, I don't mean to step on you, Deborah, but we have to remember to tell the story about the volunteer that thanked you for the lovely knit cowls.
Oh, yeah.
Deborah, just very quickly.
Just a quick timeout here. For people who have to rush off to another meeting, I want to let you know it's okay if you need to disconnect and move on. We'll go ahead and keep the recording on through the end of this story, and then we will, we'll stop that as well. So thank you. Go ahead, tell us the story.
Okay. Yeah, here's the cowl. Because someone's doing it crochet. But yeah, Joanne and I have been kind of going back and forth, and I was like, I got this thank you note. They really do handwrite thank you notes, and they are so sweet. I was just all, oh, and I got one, and it said thank you for the knitted cowls. And I happened to be talking to Joanne, and I said they were crocheted cowls, and And I was like, I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble, but it was crocheted. And she went back, and I guess you showed it to her, and the woman was completely astonished. She said, I didn't realize that was crochet. I didn't know crochet could look like that. But yeah, this is, my crochet can kind of look like knitting. So anyway, but it was funny.
Nice.
So anyway, yes, I am very much a crocheter. So if you get something from me, it will be crocheted. You do not want my knits either.
Um, I just want everybody to know if after today you have any questions, concerns, anything. I'm reasonably easy to get in touch with. You can email me, you can telephone me, and if I don't answer, I will get back to you. I love speaking with everyone. That's the best part of my job. So if you have one of those V8 moments and you forgot to ask, do not hesitate. And if I can be helpful in any way, please let me know.
And Christmas at Sea also does have a group on Ravelry if you're on
Yes,
Ravelry, and
yes,
that's also a great place to connect.
it is. And it wasn't instead, Untangled was a complement to, not instead of.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And you're